So UFC 286 is over. Dwain and I are going to go over our thoughts of the main card. But before we get to that, if you're brand new here, be sure to subscribe. We've got brand new videos every week. So Dwain, starting with the main event, we had Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards 3 for the welterweight title. The decision went to Leon Edwards. Now, including the point deduction for the obvious fence grab, did you think that was the right decision?
Well, I'm not sure. For me, I put it as 47-47 when the card finished. I was slightly leaning towards Leon maybe to win, but it was a real tricky one. I am shocked that one of the judges gave 4 rounds to Leon. I think that seemed a little bit unfair.
Yeah, well, I actually thought the opposite. I thought Leon, I wouldn't say clear cut one. I mean, I wouldn't agree with the 4 rounds. But the point deduction, I think to get a draw, it's got to be so thinly sliced, doesn't it? Like so far down the middle. But, you know, the leg kicks for Leon, they were paying dividends massively. The body kicks. I said in the live stream to you, did you think that it was a different Usman than what you're anticipating coming into this third fight?
For sure. Usman seemed so much slower than he usually was. He didn't seem as confident. He seemed very, very hesitant. And Leon just came with that confidence, and he was able to neutralize a lot of what Usman was trying to do. So I think that's what really changed things here.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more of a grapple-heavy fight. I know we got a few exchanges, up against the fence, and there was a point where Leon was, almost in the center of the octagon, so he had nowhere to go. But I was expecting Usman to come in a little more bloodthirsty, a little more headhunting. I mean, not that it makes a difference right now, but I don't want to go into this too much, Dwain, but I'm more keen to hear you. What do you think this means for Usman now? We'll talk about Edwards in a minute.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure what's next for Usman. I thought he was going to retire tonight. I think after that loss, that seemed a good option for him. But I don't know. Maybe he'll fight Belal or someone like that. Honestly, it's a real tricky one for Usman. I feel like he's now coming to the end of the road. I think seeing how slow he was tonight and how unable he was to sort of put his game plan in place, I think it's probably the right time to retire.
It's a bold prediction there. Like the Usman, I think he said in the post fights, he's not done yet, but surely he's coming towards the end of his career. I mean, with Leon, I think I know which fight you want to see next, and he was in the crowd tonight, giving it all the throat slashes, all this kind of thing. the old 5'9" Undertaker, that kind of stuff. We're of course talking about Colby Chaos Covington. Surely that's got to be the next fight. Like we've said before, Dwain, Colby, all he had to do was wait. Coming off the win after win, aside from the 2 Usman losses, obviously, just going to have to wait. Maybe we'll get it even the latter end of this year. But again, this is all just speculation. Now we move on to the co-main event, which was a barn burner from the second this fight got announced. We had Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje. Dwain, what did you think of this absolute battle?
It was amazing. I feel like so many people really just thought Justin's terrible now. There's even talk about him as though he's out of the window. I'm like, are you joking? You're forgetting who Justin Gaethje is. And he outclassed Fiziev for 3 rounds. And it was a real domination. He really showed that he's such a high-level fighter. Because we often talk about people like Fiziev coming up these rankings, go, he's a really great high-level technical striker. And he is. But some people can't cut it right at that top. And I feel like Justin's really put a stamp on this and said, no, sorry, Fiziev, you're not good enough for this high level.
Justin's power in that fight, like early on, it seemed like so evenly matched. And maybe it's just because obviously we know the decision. Obviously, the decision went to Justin Gaethje. And Rafael was cut up by the end of that. It was like, I've used this analogy a few times. It was like the end scene of Carrie. Yeah. His face was just a mess, though, wasn't it? I think the actual phrase we were talking about in the live stream was, "It looked like a dropped lasagna." It genuinely looked battered. But I wrote him off. I'll hold my hands up. I went with Fiziev for my predictions. I thought Fiziev was going to actually finish Justin Gaethje, but he said in the post fight, didn't he? He says, "I'm going to make one more run at the title, but I'm not going to be around for too much longer," which I think is probably a fair call. It's probably the most realistic look at it, because too many times we've seen fighters, they might be coming up, 43 or something, and they're like, yeah, I'm still going for that title, So what do you think is next for Gaethje? Do you think that warrants a title shot straight away or what?
It's so difficult with this lightweight division because there's a lot of top guys there, isn't there? All fighting for this title. So you've got like Charles Oliveira versus
ONeil?
yeah, you've got Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush, and I think the winner of that's probably going to get the title. But then who does Justin fight? Surely we can't have another rematch of Dustin versus Justin. So it's really tricky. I don't know who Justin's going to fight next.
See, just as you said that, you said Dustin versus Justin, my eyes just lit up a little bit. Actually, I think we could have another fight of them two, Dwain.
Yeah, it would be good. It'd be really fun. Yeah, it would be a fun fight.
I suppose it's a hard thing to balance because, like we've just heard him say from himself tonight, Justin even said, I don't have that long left. So you're probably trying to balance that along with what's actually somewhat fair. Because you can't, if someone was going to say, I've got one more fight and then I'm going to retire, you couldn't just automatically give them a title shot, But depending on how long he's thinking to have left, I think he's probably done the right move. And like we've said before, he does like more legacy fights nowadays. It's not often you see him. He isn't the most active fighter, but every single one of his fights are always barn burners. Then we come into Gunnar Nelson versus Bryan Barberena. Now, Dwain and I thought Barberena was going to show a little bit more than what he did, but it was just outclassed. First round submission for Gunnar. What did you think of this performance?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have really forgot how good Gunnar Nelson is. He's this Icelandic warrior, and he showed how technical and how able he is because he battered Bryan Barberena, didn't he? He dominated him at every point. He kept getting him in different positions, and that quick transition to that armbar, he saw the opportunity and he took it so fast. And Barberena didn't know what was happening, and then that was it. It was over.
It was lightning fast, though, wasn't it? That transition into armbar at the end. Because there was a couple of submission attempts to grab his arm. I thought it was maybe going for a Kimura. Then he was going for a straight armbar. Couple of elbows to his face. The beard did no justice to protect his chin. And he just transitioned straight into an armbar. As soon as that was locked in, he got it at 4 minutes 51 in the first round. And you can't survive 9 seconds of that strain on your arm. So Bryan Barberena had no choice but to tap, but I'm looking forward to seeing them both back in the octagon soon. Then we have Jennifer Maia versus Casey ONeil. My housemate Ryan, who was involved in the live stream, he was actually really excited for this fight as well. It was a good, fun fight, back and forth. But what were your initial thoughts, Dwain?
Yeah, well, it was a really fun fight. Honestly, it was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to get a real grapple-heavy match here. But the thing is, we've said it before, haven't we? With these grapplers, when they both come against each other, it tends to be a kickboxing match instead. And it was really fun, actually. It surprised me how enjoyable it was. I really thought Casey ONeil was going to get the win here because it's great for Jennifer Maia getting a win, but the trouble is, what does she do next, right? She's not top flight. She's not going to get a shot at the belt. Whereas if Casey ONeil could have got a win here, she could have really jumped up. And I'm interested to see when Casey ONeil comes back, how much is she going to develop and improve from this fight?
Well, that's exactly that. If Casey would have won this fight, it would have been acted as a springboard to project her up further up the rankings. A win over Jennifer Maia would have been great, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. Jennifer Maia outclassed her. I was surprised at that, by the way. I was surprised that Jennifer Maia was a lot busier. She was landing a lot more clean and precise shots. And she just, I wouldn't say had a way with her, but it just seemed like the power difference was apparent, very much so. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Jennifer Maia. She's in probably the last stages of her career, but it still doesn't mean that it excludes any potential fun fights in the future. Then we come into the fight that opened the main card. You had Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. Now, I'm hoping I'm saying that right again for the 100th time. This was a fun fight, I thought, Dwain. It could have gone either way. It's one of them fights I wouldn't have wanted to be a judge judging that fight. What did you think?
Yeah, I know a lot of people were complaining that Marvin Vettori was opening the card. They were like, he's a big fighter. Why is he so low down? But I love when we get big names like this opening the card. It's like Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. How exciting that was when they opened the card. And I just think it makes that whole card feel so much bigger. And I think it gets everyone excited. But for the actual fight itself, like you were saying there, I'm glad I'm not a judge because I felt that fight could have really gone either way. But Marvin Vettori is so durable. It kind of felt like he was on skates for 3 rounds. Like at one point during the live stream, we're like, oh, is Marvin rocked? I'm like, he's been rocked for 3 rounds, Mark. He's bobbing all over the place.
Yeah. It was like a Churchill dog for a lot of that fight, wasn't it? But we all know that, I think climbing Kilimanjaro is probably an easier task than knocking Marvin Vettori clean out. But it was a good fight for Roman. I don't think that it took anything from Dolidze to actually take a loss to Marvin Vettori because he's one of the top contenders. Don't forget his losses are against, 2 times to someone like Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker just a few months ago. I'm looking forward. I really hope, as a probably somewhat biased fan, I really hope that Marvin can claw his way back and potentially even put himself back in the championship contention. And of course, on the prelims, we can't continue without even mentioning Muhammad's knee bar. And he went on to win the fight by submission. The way that was bending, I thought it just reminded me of my old Stretch Armstrong toy when I got it for Christmas. Absolutely disgusting. Overall, UFC 286 delivered. It was a fun card, especially for the time for you in the UK, Dwayne. It was great to have the UFC back in the UK for the first time in a long time. I think that's all we've got time for. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.